during the menstrual cycle. Women are told don't be active during the menstrual cycle. Women aren't informed about how to take care of their body the right way. So I just think that this lack of awareness can only be tackled with by conversations, right? And even starting from one conversation, when millions of people multiply their action, we can create a lasting impact on the world, right? So starting from one single conversation, we just have to tackle an issue as huge as menstrual inequity, and we just have to ensure that girls know that periods don't make them less capable, because it's bizarre, like you said. I remember a few years back during the election campaign, President Donald Trump, he said that Hillary Clinton should not be made president because she would be menstruating 25% of the time, and she might just lose it and launch a nuclear attack on the world. And I think this just goes to two things. One, the need to reiterate to women around the world that periods do not make them less capable than their male counterparts. And second, it also shows a lack of awareness and education about this issue, because I'm sure it's fair to assume that Hillary Clinton would have stopped menstruating about a decade ago. So this just really shows how even people in the highest, even people from all walks of life, it's not just a problem in
underprivileged. Also, it goes on to say, which is, the fact that he's just a douche. But apart from the fact, also that, a lot of, and this is what I want to reiterate as well, because you go to a fairly, posh school, and I'm using the word posh because often we would think, and which is also a fact, that people from a little underprivileged backgrounds, or people who don't have access to information or can't always afford sanitary products and sanitary pads, will be unaware and not take this seriously. But it's actually quite shocking to know how many women who are educated, who are progressive, who are modern, who are from the urban quarters, from well-to-do backgrounds, are also extremely unaware and don't give enough importance or heed. And how important it is to constantly be aware of one's menstrual health. And no amount of conversation is enough to push the point forward. And these are some facts that have been given by Aza, which is 80% of adolescent girls are unaware of the health implication that could occur due to poor menstrual hygiene. Right? And again, this brings me to the fact that, again, 48% of adolescent girl population in India, which is not only in rural, mind you, also in urban sectors, is aware of the menstruation prior to their first period. So I want to ask you, because you obviously are still in school, what is the kind of experience you've had that you saw within your peers or friends who have had not such a it has had adversible, sort of situations and practically have been shamed in many ways.
Right.
What's your experience?
Right. So, like I mentioned, the period taboo is present literally everywhere. Even at my school, I faced experiences, in the middle of the class when a girl just wants to go and, refresh herself and change her pad. And, in the middle of the class, you just ask the teacher, can I go to the washroom? And you know how all teachers are, they think you're trying to bunk class, right? So they'll just ask you, he or she will just ask you, why do you want to go to the washroom now? And instead of telling them that I'm on my menstrual cycle and I might just want to use the washroom, the girls will just get so embarrassed and sit down. And then when they go to the washroom, they'll just sort of, become magicians and hide the tampon or the pad on the underside of their sleeves and go to the washroom. And then I remember there was this one incident that was really, really crushing. And there was this one girl in my school, and she was fairly new to periods. Like, she just started getting her periods a while back. And in class, she just had a small accident and she leaked. And she was so embarrassed by it that she didn't come to school for the rest of the week. I mean, for the next 3 days, she didn't come to school. And I think this is the epitome of how embarrassing girls still feel, just because something so naturally occurring, and and it sort of just reiterates the need for girls to be able to bleed with dignity.
Absolutely.
Even at school, even at my school, things aren't that great, but I believe we were able to bring some change, just normalize the topic a little more. And I think if everybody does that at the grassroots level, we will be able to make a systematic and structural change in, our culture and our environment and our attitudes towards menstruation.
That's brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to take 3 points from what you said. First of all, the embarrassment around menstruation. Everyone knows it's a natural process. Everyone knows women go through it. I remember, and what you said, bleed with dignity, and that's, I think, that should be a legit hashtag because the fact that, I mean, it's as natural as breathing, as natural as going, urinating, and that's, but still there is so much stigma and taboo attached to it. I remember the first time I was in school, and I remember this guy's name also sitting behind me, and we were it was a biology class, and we were talking about life cycle 2, that chapter in CBSE, and suddenly he taps me in the middle of the class. He taps me and he's like, you also, this happens to you also? And I turned around, I was like, yeah. But it was, and I saw this like a shocking kind of, and after these lessons, I could see that the boys started looking at girls differently, and it's silly, but it's only because it's not their fault. There has not been enough conversation around it, and that's why. And honestly, this is, I strongly feel that not only women, but men and boys also should be made part of this conversation, right? Because we all live in the same society. We all hang out together, work together, study together, and there should not be, and all kinds of, the moment you talk about something in a hushed tone, it tends to become mysterious. And what you said, that this hiding the tampon, or even now on a shoot, if I have to give somebody, or I have to take a ST from somebody, they would always hide it and give you. It's almost like you're drug dealing, it's really strange. I mean, when you go out to buy sanitary pads, they always wrap it in brown papers or in a black polythene and give you, because it's supposed to be, oh my god, what are you doing, so what do you have to say, Anjali, about this conversation, this conversation started with not only girls but also boys?
Right. I think there's 2 things I'd like to say. One is we need to stop using code words, that time of the month, Shark Week. My friend actually came up with a really creative one.
Shark Week.
Shark Week, because there's a superstition that sharks will, like, if you're at the beach and you're on your period, sharks are going to come to you. Well, that's not really famous in India, but it's really sort of prevalent outside.
Internationally, right.
Yeah. And my friend came up with a really creative one. She calls her period Japan, because like the Japanese flag. So yeah, we need to stop using euphemisms, because I think they're funny and they're entertaining.
I'm taking notes.
The moment we do that, we're sort of just, institutionalizing the notion that, periods are something to be embarrassed about. Periods are something to always be addressed in a hushed sort of tone. So I think we should start saying the word out loud and clear. I am on my period.
And not like I'm chumming or I'm down or all of that.
Right.
So stop using euphemism is another note I've taken.
Right. And
but what are sorry.
No, please.
No, please continue using.
Okay, and the second one is, and I think this is really important, is most of the girls get a period talk, right, when they're like 10 or 12 or whenever. They get the period talk from their parents, and even in school, I remember in 7th grade, we got the period talk where all the girls were told to, go aside in one room, and, told us about, this is the changes that your body is going to go through, you might experience, etc. I just feel like that segregation should not have taken place. I think
Right.
if both boys and girls
Absolutely.
were present in the classroom at the same time, the taboo
Yeah.
would have deteriorated for sure. Because
Yeah.
because boys feel like, even this is sort of it's important for us to know, and it's important for us to understand. And the
Yes.
fact to be more aware of it will instantly
Yeah.
make them understand that this is a naturally occurring phenomena that does not
Yes.
need to always be hushed. Right.
Absolutely. And adding to what you just so rightly put, that awareness brings empathy. And the moment we make people aware of what's going on, even boys will be able to empathize with what's happening. And I know for a fact that, especially when you're starting your periods, in the first couple of years or first few years are extremely painful. It's also because your body is undergoing so much, so much change. You've hit your puberty. You have your breasts coming out, which is again you're dealing with your body in a different way. You're going through psychological changes. You start noticing how boys are looking at you differently. So you start becoming aware of yourself as also a sexual being. And there's a lot happening, and the same things for men also, because they are also going through puberty and different kind of changes and hormones, and a gamut of hormones that sort of overtake you, and periods being so painful. I remember just not coming out of the loo for hours, in the first few, and they would go on for like 15 days, 17 days, and they would not, stop. And that's what happens to people. And then obviously it gets okay with time, like most things do in life. You start to bear the pain or the pain lessens for whatever reasons. But the fact that you're able to help each other through this process, because as shared your experience with your school friend, I remember this one time, and this is again a problem, because a lot of girls have white skirts they wear to school, and our PT or sports uniform was a white divided skirt. And I remember this classmate of ours, she suddenly got her periods, and it was a white divided skirt. So you can imagine the catastrophe that sort of broke loose. And she was poor thing. I remember her howling and crying and standing in the girls' loo, and we were trying to figure what to do, and there were a bunch of boys in class who were laughing about, at her. She was traumatized for a while, and I could see that, she'd stop coming to school for a few days after that, and even after that, she would look down while walking, and it actually can scar you in many ways, and we don't really always give it importance, and you might forget, like we do, again, a lot of things, but it's not a very positive environment to go through these bodily natural changes. And honestly, I can't thank you enough for taking it on yourself to increase this conversation. Because it's really, I feel, Anjali, that it's your generation, which also is Greta's generation, which actually reiterates the hope that we were losing, because I think it's your generation who are much more aware, much more vocal, much more progressive in so many ways than we were at your age. So thank you for doing all the work you're doing. But coming back, can you tell us what is the kind of work you are doing, and how is it that you've seen a certain kind of change in your environment?
Right. Okay. Thank you once again for those kind words. Okay, so the work that Full Stop does is we try to raise awareness and access to menstrual products, and
Right.
so what we do is we host fundraisers, and we just try to collect enough funds. With that, we distribute reusable cloth pads to underprivileged women and girls. And
Okay.
we use reusable cloth pads because they're an eco-friendly, like, alternative to disposable plastic pads. So this is just friendlier to the environment. And the same girls that we distribute our pads to, we hold awareness sessions for them. So we talk to them about
Right.
menstrual health management, and we do this through an activity. So what we do is we give them 23 white beads, and we give them 5 red beads, and we give them a string. And then we ask them to make a bracelet that signifies the menstrual cycle. So it's like 20
Wow.
white beads for the days that you're not menstruating, and 5 red
Right.
beads you are. And when they're putting the beads, we're just telling them, so on these days is when you start ovulating, and then this is what happens.
Right.
So just through an
That's
activity.
lovely.
Yeah, so through an activity, we just try to teach them and normalize talking about periods. Yeah, it's really great and it's super fulfilling, and I think people do take it well. I mean, we usually work with girls who've never spoken about menstruation openly ever before, not even with their parents. So of course, it takes a little while to get them, comfortable. When we go to them and we're like, we're here today to talk about periods, and all of them just sit down and start giggling to each other.
Yeah.
But at the end of the session, I think luckily we've always been able to end with every girl sharing their first period story and just really normalize it with them. So yeah, we've done that with over 500 different girls. And along with that, we've just run a lot of social media campaigns. And we've done that because, like I mentioned, this is a taboo that's prevalent everywhere. So, one might ask, why are you doing social media campaigns? Like, what's the need? Everybody on Instagram, is woke. But I don't think that's ground reality.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the work that we do. As for the change that I think that has come about in my community, I just think people are a lot more vocal about periods. People are okay with talking about it. I think for me, I have sometimes really bad menstrual cramps, and at first I used to feel like everybody would just dismiss it and be like that it's just inevitable. But people now started becoming, like you said, a little more empathetic towards what a girl might go through when she's menstruating.
Right.
So, yeah, just small differences that you can bring about in your community really go on to have like a spillover effect and
absolutely
institutionalize the sort of conversations and attitudes that we need.
And it's changing one attitude at a time, changing one mind at a time, and that person would in turn go bring awareness to one more person, and that's exactly how change is brought about. There's no other way. It's not a global overnight phenomena that happens. People just wake up with an epiphany. It never happens like that. I'm going to start taking a few questions and comments, and thank you everyone for joining in and giving so much love. That little girl is saying yes, and even female teachers are supposed to see this live, that it's natural. Hats off. And teachers are shy to explain the menstrual cycle part. So I want to ask you that, do you also do workshops with teachers? Because it's also not the parents all the time, because it also comes to the teachers to sort of explain it as we were speaking in school. So have you had interactions with teachers?
Yeah. So we don't separately hold workshops with teachers, but we always try to make sure that whichever school that we go to hold awareness sessions, we try to make sure that teachers don't leave the class, because they have a habit of doing that. The principal is here to talk about periods, and the teacher will just step out because she doesn't want
because she's embarrassed.
Exactly. So we actually request the teachers if they can stay in class, and the fact that the students actually see that the teacher is in class and she's okay with the conversation that's taking place, I think that'll just make them a lot more comfortable with talking to the teacher about it as well. So yeah, that's something that we try to do. And
this gives me... Okay, sorry.
No, please.
No, I'm so sorry. Please continue, sorry.
And I think even principals, what we do is we actually go to schools around us where we think that people might benefit from, our awareness sessions. And many principals have actually told me to leave their office because, they welcome me at first. And then I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is my proposal. And they'll just be like, oh, okay. I think you should just leave. So yeah, the taboo just goes on to such high levels that it's really hard to change sometimes. But I think it's happening, and I really hope we get to see that change. Yeah.
My God, it must be so frustrating. My friend Natasha Rastogi is saying more than children, parents need to be trained about how to talk about such issues, which I completely agree. And this actually gives me an idea. Maybe we should do some videos, and you guys should think about doing some videos which can talk to the parents, but also and you can't really change these things overnight, because I know how much of a difficult process it is to actually convert older people, even more than younger people, right? Because they have this, baggage of conditioning. But maybe a bunch of videos and stuff, and I'm sure you are already doing it, that can be played in schools, that it can be played by parents to their children, that this is what happens. And this talk, first of all, as you said, it happens when you're in class 7, and it's too late to have this conversation. I got my periods when I was in class 5, and I was probably the first one to get it in my class. And I was like, I know it all kind of attitude, because I did. And I have a very, very funny story around periods, which actually went on for years, because I was literally waiting for my periods to happen. But that's probably for another day. Yeah, because there are a lot of myths about that, right? So maybe we can start talking about making these videos which are more accessible to school teachers and parents and children. Janice is here, my friend. Thank you, Janice. Just talking with that red lipstick. Sorry. Janice is saying, guys, they're having a very important conversation. Okay. Yeah, some people are randomly commenting. So, tell me, what is the difference in awareness that you feel that are prevalent in rural sectors as opposed to the urban quarters? What is the difference that you see?
Right. So I think in awareness sessions with the rural sector, you actually have to explain to them that this is a biological process. Because there are myths where women believe that, periods is a cause from God, where they're getting punished for their sins. Right?
Wow, okay.
It's not that extreme everywhere, but still it's like it's important to explain to the rural sector that this is like a normal, natural, biological process. So that's the awareness section. So that's just what we need to include in our awareness sections there. And as for the more urban sector, I think awareness needs to come about just like a lot of things. For example, when it comes to the health problems that you might have with your uterus, right? I barely anyone, including me, I think till very recently, I didn't know about fibroids. I didn't know about endometriosis, and I really think it's important. For example, in the USA, 3 out of 4 women who have endometriosis, they don't know they have endometriosis until it's too late. So if people are just taught about symptoms and what causes it, how to avoid it, and when it's time to go to the doctor, I think that's really important for people to know, because these are serious health issues, right? It can lead to infertility, it can lead to severe pelvic pain, and in extreme cases it can also be fatal. So it's just important for women to know that just have more knowledge about periods and menstruation in general.
Yes. So, there's so many myths around periods, right? I mean, for example, like apparently 59% of adult women think if they touch a pickle jar while they're on their menstrual cycle, they'll spoil the pickle. You shouldn't be exercising, you shouldn't be bathing, there are so many don'ts of what like long list of what you shouldn't be doing. And I remember having this conversation with you, probably when it started, where women were almost forced to stay indoors, in one room, isolated. Probably it was just to give them a little bit of rest time, because otherwise often you would see women walking for kilometers to get water or doing a lot of household work and not really getting that downtime, just to rest. And probably that's how it started. But although our situation and realities have changed for most of us, or a lot of us at least, those taboos and those myths have stayed as these superstitions, right? Something that Ankita8895 is asking, hi Shiny, what do you think is the role of the media and cinema to break the to break the stereotype? And this is definitely something I want to address, because till about now, you always saw sanitary pads, advertisements where they showed blue blood. I mean, who even bleeds blue, right? The basic thing, like, why can't you show red? I'm wearing red lipstick. Like, why can't you show red on the sanitary pad? And it's like bizarre, but it's these very silent things, like how, and this is nothing against the company, but how whisper is also a hushed tone. That's why I whisper, you know. You can never say, "Arey, mera periods hai, mujhe sanitary pad de do." Everyone says, "Ki, yeah, you know, do you have? Oh, do you have? I'm gonna ask." So there's a constant hushed, conversation around periods.
Right.
And this is what needs to stop. Like my mother till date changes the channel when there is a sanitary pad ad coming on TV, you know, till date. Recently in February I was in Calcutta and I had to buy sanitary pads, and she literally gave me a dirty look saying, "What are you doing?" You know, because she's never bought sanitary pads in her life. It's always her friend or a colleague in her office who bought pads for herself and me. And the first time I remember I was in Delhi for college and I had to go and buy sanitary pads, and it was fine, you know, I didn't have a problem. It wasn't something wrong I was doing, but I know for a fact that a lot of people have issues. And it's probably their upbringing and their conditioning and all of that. I want to ask you something about, and we have to talk about the environment, because there is tons and tons of, billions of tons of plastic in the world, like 78 billion tons of plastic already existing on this planet. And a part of that is just sanitary products, right? So we have to start talking about a more sustainable way to do this, which is moving towards biodegradable pads. And if you can tell us a little about what you think about the product and why we should be sort of raising awareness towards this.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think, when we talk about periods, of course, there's, the taboo and the stigma, but one often overlooked issue when it comes to period is how we dispose of pads and what kind of pads we use. So India, especially, the situation is really bad because we aren't disposing, like most of the rural and even in the urban sector, we aren't disposing the pads right. Many people just sort of flush it down the washroom, okay? And
wow.
then the pads,
yeah,
that's really
I never understood that.
Yeah. And other times, people are just using huge packets of plastic, again, that's just generating a lot of plastic waste.
Every time, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people just throw it away, especially in the rural areas. So I think that's really bad because it just leaves a lot of people open to infections. So I think disposal is a huge issue when it comes to sustainability and menstruation. And of course, pads that we use, it's plastic, it's not good for your body, and
yes,
girls face like rashes and a sort of like itchiness, and we just think it's normal, like it's inevitable. We just have, this is something we have to deal with, but that's not the case. If you just use cotton organic pads, if if you switch to more eco-friendly alternatives as opposed to plastic disposable pads, it's good for you, it's good for the environment, and it's
the environment.
Yeah,
absolutely. I couldn't have agreed more. And in fact, the first biodegradable pad that I discovered was through my makeup artist Seher, and we were doing an outdoor location, and she said, "Have you tried this?" And it was Aza. And I tried it, and I was like, oh my goodness. And this is literally like when I was shooting for the second season of Homo Shots, which is literally last year. And I can't believe that, I couldn't believe that for these many years I had deprived myself of this basic necessity, because those, even people like us who think we are progressive and modern and we are taking care of ourselves and those, all of this, don't actually give a single moment to realize that rashes are avoidable. It's not. We take it for granted. We're like, acha, it's just something that happens to you. It's not. And you can't totally avoid it. And I can't believe that, why are we not going towards biodegradable pads? Because as you said, it doesn't smell. It's made of cotton, so it's really light on your skin. It does not leave rashes. You feel more comfortable. You can sort of wear it for a little longer because it's much more comfortable and it's softer, but it's also great for the environment, and it's no plastic. It doesn't, and because it's better on your skin. And I was doing a live with a doctor 2 days ago, and she said that the skin around your genitalia is actually a softer skin, and you have to be much more careful with that skin around there, and we have to be aware of that, and also the environment, that I mean, the fact that we're all in a lockdown situation, the entire sorry, I lost you for a second. Yeah. And the fact that, we haven't really paid enough heed to environment, and we are in a global lockdown situation because of that. And I always feel that, it was giving us alarms, but, the leaders who run the world constantly and still are not doing what's required. And there is so much greed, and there's so much wastage, and there is no thought and towards sustainability, that we should make every effort that we can towards a more sustainable way of living. And menstruation is something that will always be there, and we have to think about more eco-friendly way of doing this. Siddharth0906 is saying full stop underscore org is also taking this full, everyone. Which is, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, Siddharth0906 is saying full stop underscore org is taking this campaign global. So absolutely, and we only have to thank Anjali and her friends who run this. Somebody's saying internet problem at Chinese end. I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't realize this. I hope it's fine now. But Ankita is asking, what do you think we can do in workplaces to make it comfortable for women colleagues on their periods?
Okay.
Can you answer this?
This is something that I think applies to every public space, and it's just really sad that I'm even having to see this now. Toilet paper is free, menstrual products should be. Toilet paper is as necessary as menstrual products. You don't, like, I think it's really ridiculous to expect a girl to just carry a pad around with her everywhere that she goes, because they're not predictable. For me, my menstrual cycle, sometimes I get it in 3 weeks, sometimes I get it in 2 months. You can't expect me to carry a pad everywhere. So I think it's really important for toilets in all public spaces to have free menstrual products. You have toilet paper for free, and I just don't get why menstrual products can't be free too. I think it's really important, and I think again this has like a little more patriarchal root, because men don't have periods, and I think that really calls into question whether if men had periods would menstrual products be free. So I really think workplaces and also public spaces in general should start
public space.
Yeah, should start providing toilet paper as well as menstrual products for free. Yeah.
Yes, and I was listening to watching Hannah Gadsby's Douglas last night, and she says that it's men who've named everything, and men have made the rules, right? And obviously, it's not. It was with very little understanding and thought and empathy towards women. And I'm making this blanket statement, but we can see it in so many small ways in the life we lead. And in spite of being, you're sending, mission to Mars. You have nanotechnology, but we are still talking about women who are literally dying without being able to afford sanitary products. It's like it's really heartbreaking, and it's alarming, but nobody is doing anything. And I know for a fact that so many people in our country has taken this as their personal mission, including somebody like you at such an early age, where they are trying to make menstrual products free for women, especially women who can't afford it, to make menstrual products, sanitary pads, tax free. We still pay so much above the market price because everything is taxed, and these products should be absolutely free. And as you said, that if you can have toilet papers and toilet rolls and hand wash, in public because it's about hygiene, then why is the woman's hygiene not, not important enough? And I think the only way is to keep the fight going and keep talking about it, because there is a huge battle to fight, and also for people who always talk about, oh, we can't really afford biodegradable pads because they are more expensive. I mean, I've been using it for a while, and although I know and I'm aware that I am privileged in many ways, I don't think that the price margin is a lot between what you get in the retail stores, you're easily the pads that we see in advertisements or in medical stores, as opposed to biodegradable pads. Aza, I know for a fact, is available in retail now, and it's very readily available online.
Right.
And so are other products as well, and other companies. And it's not, the price margin is not so large. And when we can buy lipsticks and cosmetics and shampoos and body wash, which are expensive, why not spend a little more on what's good for you and good for the environment, right?
For sure.
So there is a documentary on Netflix, End of Period, Sagar Agri, saying absolutely, period, end of sentence, that actually won the Oscars last year. And there's so many, as I said, there's so many people who are actually doing groundwork to actually change, to change, the reality around us. Is there any parting thoughts, Anjali? Thank you for your time, first of all, and thank you for the incredible work that you have started. Thank you, Aza, for letting me do this with Anjali. It's such a pleasure, and it's so inspiring. But is there any parting thought you want to leave us with?
I think the switch from stigma and shame to awareness and education, that change is going to be brought about how any idea good worth spreading starts. It's with a conversation. For many of the viewers here, congratulations. This might have been your first one. And for all of you, I just encourage you to go out and have a lot more. Because just be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yes. Somebody, that little girl is saying, yeah, I was on my first periods and I knew what is periods. I told my friend I'm on my periods. My teacher said, stupid, why are you telling the P word so loudly? Exactly. And the P word is not one of shame. We use the F word more often, but we are still ashamed to use the P word, in public, even amongst friends and our loved ones and people we care about and we can confide in. So I think, as Anjali said, that the only way out of this is awareness, and to have this constant conversation with not only yourself and your friends, but also people who you think, people who work in your homes, people who might not always have information or access to social media or, internet and things like that, right? So use this awareness to also advocate and also spread it, because it's pointless to just be aware yourself and informed if you don't spread it. And that's the only way forward. As Anjali said, that we have to, and I would repeat, you have to bust the myths constantly, stop using euphemism, and you have to come from a place of empathy, as we discussed, and you have to hashtag bleed with dignity. So thank you so much. Thank you, Anjali. Thank you, Aza. This was lovely. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. And I do hope that very soon we are able to create awareness in every sector, in every strata of society, in every corner of the world, and so that no woman actually is suffering and dying out of lack of menstrual awareness.
Right, true. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we had this conversation. We could reach however many people that we could. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for your time. It was so wonderful talking to you.
Absolutely, and lots of love. I'm so